Morning, this is Brian. Today is a lovely, crisp Monday, April 26, 2021. I'm in Powder Canyon near Habra Heights, Hacienda Heights, and Rowland Heights. And I want to present a spotlight on shrubs today. So now that we're in spring, it's time to start looking out for wildflowers on the herbs, the annuals, the perennials, and the shrubs, and of course the trees. So, one plant in particular that has always fascinated me with its incredible beauty and wonderful aura and great scent is the purple sage, Salvia leucophylla. This is it, purple sage. Just like all the other sages, it's a member of the mint family, the Lamiaceae, and it is a small to medium-sized subshrub to shrub with a fairly woody base. And this is it right here, Salvia leucophylla. So, like a lot of other members of the genus Salvia, and a lot of members in the Lamiaceae, the plant is characterized by oppositely arranged leaves. You can see here, these leaves are opposite one another on the stem, and like a lot of the sages, the twigs are square in cross-section. That's very common for Lamiaceae. And like a lot of Lamiaceae, especially in the genus Salvia, the plants are extremely aromatic. It's these essential oils that these plants give off in attempts to deter herbivores from chewing them up and eating them. However, a lot of sages actually make good seasonings for food. I'm not sure if purple sage itself was used. I've heard that black and white sage were used for seasonings. I would imagine purple sage would be similar. It has a delectfully pungent, clean, fresh aroma. It is like the other sages, kind of a mixture a little bit what black sage would have, or what, you know, black and white sage, kind of the pungency of those two. It's kind of like a mixture of the both. And they are typified by these wrinkly, glandular leaves that are broader at the base, actually almost auriculate. You can see they're kind of lobed at the very base before the petiole, and then they're broadest here near the base, and then they taper off to a narrower tip. And again, if you look at the texture, you can see that the leaves are kind of wrinkly, a little fuzzy, not unlike a lot of other sages. So purple sage is a pretty common member of the California floristic province, member of, especially in the coastal sage scrub, and sometimes on the outside of chaparral borders. Now where we are, we're about 1,100 feet above sea level, above Powder Canyon, near Scabarram Regional Park, and we are in prime habitat. This is coastal sage scrub, with a lot of softly woody plants like Californian Salvia and Salvia californica. We got California sagebrush, Artemisia californica, which is not related. It's in the sunflower family, by the way. And we got woodier shrubs like Rhamnus licifolia, hollyleaf redberry. Then we got Rus integrifolia, the lemonade sumac or lemonade berry. And then of course we got Heteromeles arbustifolia, which is toyon. And then sometimes you'll find them in the edge of oak woodlands with coast live oak, Quercus agrifolia, variety agrifolia. We are close to the southern end of purple sage's range. It's more, you find it more going up in central California and up that way. But we do get some nice stands of it here. I am in very far southern Los Angeles County. Again, being in Powder Canyon, I'm along a small transverse range of small hills and mountains called the Whittier-Puente, and then eastward the Chino Hills. And there are quite a few stands of purple sage. So we're used to seeing sages, especially on sunnier, more exposed slopes and ridge lines, and then sometimes again at the end of woodlands and chaparral thickets. So purple sage, why is it called purple sage? Well, the flowers. Purple sage flowers are some of the most strikingly beautiful of our native salvia species. Here we go. Just like the mint family, they have the little lips on them, they're kind of your typical sage-shaped flowers, but they are these attractive light to medium purple shadings that are just strikingly beautiful. So they come on these staged heads. So these are relatively young flowers. See, they're not going to flower a whole lot this year because we're in a very dry, we've had a very extremely dry, rainy season. Now we're in the dry season and there's not really much moisture in the soil. So these ones are not going to flower as exquisitely as they normally would, but they still are doing pretty nicely. So they get these staged heads, and later on, that's what becomes the seed capsules that have the little sage nutlets in them. And they got these little staged heads like this right here. You can see the 3 staged heads up there. And inside of it, a little tiny seed once the capsules ripen. So purple sage. There's one species of sage, well, there are a few species of sage to the untrained eye with which purple sage can be confused. But the closest one to me that would be a likely candidate for confusion is Cleveland sage, Salvia clevelandii. They also have these kind of purplish flowers, and they have these kind of grayish colored, grayish green leaves. So there are ways to tell them apart. For me, the biggest thing is when the plants are not in flower, the smell of the sage. This has that real kind of bitter, clean, not bitter in a bad way, but that real kind of pungent, striking, in your face, hard kick of a fragrance. Really pungent. Whereas Cleveland sage has more of a sweet, kind of more of a sweet aroma. They both smell heavenly awesome. Let's put it that way. But this one just tends to be more pungent, and the Cleveland sage tends to be sweeter. And Cleveland sage and purple sage, to my knowledge, don't grow together. You're going to be more likely to see Cleveland sage in southern Riverside County through San Diego County, though it might pop up in southern Orange County occasionally. But I don't believe Cleveland sage was found this far north. Like I said, we're in southern LA County, just maybe about a mile or 2 away from the 34th parallel in latitude. But again, beautiful plant, and like most of our sages, they do exhibit polymorphic leaves. I want to say polymorphic leaves. Like a lot of sages, they do go through some level of dormancy during the dry season, where they're not actively growing. They're not fully drought-deciduous. There are a lot of plants that will shed their leaves during the summer season to conserve moisture. But what a lot of the sages, and especially purple sage, will do is you can see these are I call them the winter leaves, the ones that came up after we did get some rain. These are the ones that look lush. These are the ones that have that really hardcore pungent aroma. And then you can see in the axils of the leaves are these smaller sets that will become the summer leaves. And the summer leaves are going to be real small, kind of dehydrated looking, and even grayer colored. So what that means essentially is that the purple sage will look a lot less luscious within the next few weeks. This will start looking a lot less luscious. Probably by June, June or so, this will probably look really dehydrated. Rest assured, it's just in its summer rest phase. So it's not fully, it's I would say semi-summer deciduous. So these new leaves here will eventually, actually they're starting to right now, considering how dry it's been. They'll start yellowing off and falling off the plant, and then you'll have these, like I said, you'll have these summer leaves that will remain on the plant until rains come in late fall or winter. So it's very common on sages to see that. U've seen that with black sage. White sage, not usually not usually to that extreme, but their leaves will be a lot whiter and a lot more dehydrated looking as well. So whereas when you see dehydrated leaves in the middle of summer, don't fret. It's an adaptation to this very dry part of the year we're heading into. And during drier winters, they become less hydrated. I've seen these plants where they are completely luscious. Like last spring of 2020 and spring of 2019, after we had good rainy seasons, they were luscious. So here we are, the beautiful purple sage. I've been wanting to spotlight this one for a while, and today was just my day. Here in Powder Canyon in the Whittier-Puente hills, you will find this plant quite often. Now, for some reason, what I've noticed is that they tend to segregate themselves, the sages, for some reason. It's not 100%, but I happen to notice that one area will have predominantly or almost completely one species. This area here, for example, has mostly purple sage. Now, like I said, it's not always the case, because over on this side, this is black sage right here, Salvia mellifera. So it's not always the case, but if you're hiking here in the Puente Hills around Scabarn Park, you'll notice that some areas will be predominantly one species. Now, purple sage is predominantly the dominant one here. Like I said, there's just one thicket of black sage here, and there are a couple of them here and there. But some areas you'll just see purple sage, and you won't see a black sage, and you won't see any white sage. Then you go to another spot, it'll be all black sage, and then no purple and no white sage. And you go to another spot, it's predominantly white sage. And here in Powder Canyon, for some reason, I don't know why they seem to segregate themselves so much. I don't have an answer as to why that happens. But when it comes to the beauty and diversity of the coastal sage scrub habitat here in southern Los Angeles County, purple sage really adds a great refreshing touch of beauty and positive vibes. So we got all these fragrant plants here. So we got California sagebrush, Artemisia californica, which is not related to the sage. Then we got black sage, and it was right here, it's actually half and half. So we got Salvia mellifera, the beautiful black sage, and again Salvia leucophylla. So what does Leucophila come from? It's a Greek word for white leaf. So we're going to go back to the leaves again. Now you notice that there's kind of a whitish, grayish cast to the plant. Well, it's a way that this plant conserves moisture. The hairiness on it and the light color reflects light more, and it also inhibits excessive moisture loss. Now, when we go into the summer season, the summer dry season, you're going to notice it a lot more. The leaves, when they become dehydrated and the new summer leaves come out, they're going to be whiter. They're going to be even whiter and kind of shriveled looking. And that's where that comes from. So that's basically it for that. The beautiful purple sage. Common fixture here in our coastal sage scrub habitat. Check it out. Enjoy it, appreciate it, and if you can get seeds online or find a plant in a nursery, grow it. It does make a really good fragrant bee plant, and makes a good bee plant, and also a good hummingbird plant. So there it is. Salvia leucophylla, purple sage. This was Spotlight on Shrubs with Brian, and I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you out there enjoying our native plants. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next episode.